Thank you very much. Now we've started. So this is the media panel as put together by First Music Contact for the Regional Development Plan. My name is Jim Carroll. I'm your host for tonight. At 6 o'clock, we will be joined by Maeve and Alex from the Offaly Arts Office to talk about the arts plan and to talk about what they've done in the past for musicians in the county and what they're planning for the future. Between now though and 6, we'll be talking about all things media. We're joined tonight by two fine people who represent the best of Irish media. One is Niall Byrne and the other is Kieran McGuinness. Niall, can we start with you? Just say hello, introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself, what you
Sure.
do, and how you ended up doing what you're doing.
Yeah, so I'm Niall. I've been running Niall or Nine for the last 20 plus years now. I am just a music enthusiast who likes writing about music, like sharing and recommending music to people, Irish and international. So I started doing that 20 years ago, or just over 20 years ago, and still at it now. So that's the core of what I do on nialler9.com. I write about new artists. Often it's writing about their first song, and their albums that come after that. And kind of the idea for me is to kind of represent and enthuse about stuff that I really, really like, and then to hopefully follow that through the career of that band. And artists that I really like, and then share that enthusiasm. So that's the core of what I do, and then I also do some like events here and there, club nights, listening parties, things like that. Things that have to make money so you can do the other things you need to do.
Right. Couple of questions then. So, I mean, just so people are clear, the acts you write about on 909 are acts that you're enthusiastic about. It's not like some other places where.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. And then the second
Yeah,
question
I
is,
mean that's the main thing for me.
okay.
Go ahead.
And second question now, what were you doing before 909? I mean, I know 20 years ago you were probably just like you're probably just a baby,
Yeah, I was in my 20s, um, but yeah, I was. Sometimes the bands I'm writing about now are younger than when I started, and I'm like, oh god, it makes me feel quite old. But that's the nature of it, isn't it? But yeah, I was a web developer. Kind of had a job just doing web development stuff, building websites, and I was skiving off in the meantime. Learning how to do all this other stuff online, writing about music, starting WordPress sites, stuff like that. So it kind of gave me a grounding and helped me maybe establish what I am in terms of the 909 brand, because I had a good web design background. I was able to design the website, all that kind of stuff. And that follows through now to me doing my own like Instagram, Canva, Reels, whatever it is, all that stuff. I like to think I have a visual eye anyway, so I do a lot of that stuff myself. So music has become so visual these days that that's a big, big part of it. It's not just the written word anymore. Obviously, there's a whole other strand of people who do like music influencers on Instagram and TikTok and stuff like that as well. But the core of what I do is the written word for sure. What was the first question?
the first question was blah blah blah. I can't remember what the first question was. But you answer. Oh yeah, the enthusiast. Didn't you the acts you write about are acts that you're actually into
Sorry,
yourself.
yes, yeah, yes. So yeah, it's so important to me that the only thing I really have is um, my authenticity in what I select and what I pick. So no band can pay me to write about them. No band can offer, sponsorship or anything like that. The only sponsorship I can take is from brands and sometimes event companies as well, festivals, stuff like that. But no band directly can pay me to feature their music, which I wouldn't normally mention, but I think in the last couple of years, I get a lot more casual, oh, let me know if you want me to pay for this kind of stuff. And I'm like, no, 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 it's important
Jesus.
and that is never part of the conversation. So I just noticed it over the last couple of years. It's like, obviously, it's becoming more regular, but you just cannot charge new artists to emerging artists for like their early coverage. It's just insane. So, like they're the ones that have very like not much money to go around as well. So you
Mm.
should not be spending money to get features. Anyone who's charging you money to feature your music or put on a playlist, whatever it is, it's usually not worth it.
Okay. Well, and how would they just as a matter of interest? Did they mention an amount?
No, no, it's always like, oh, let me know what the price is for doing something, or like, or
Really?
like a couple hundred or whatever, you're like, "Oh, okay, no, that's a red line for me. Like, I just cannot do that stuff. The people around music who have the money, the brands and all that stuff, they're the ones who pay for it. they the ones by association want to be near you and near the bands and stuff like that. So they're the ones who can pay for their coverage and their branded events and all that kind of stuff. But anyone else, new artists, absolutely not. It's not important for me. In terms of like how I operate then with, say, a brand new act, I guess there's different tiers of how I would feature or work with or recommend music. So, say my first port of call would be the Irish Tracks of the Week. Sometimes it's every second week because that's just the nature of life these days. Is like right about, but I pick 7 or 8 songs every week or second week that I really spend a lot of time picking. I would go through all the list of new artists, all the emails that are sent to me, all my own sources, make a long list. I think I can actually probably see here a long list of 28 songs for featuring in the last week and a half, and I picked 7 of them and wrote about them today. So that's kind of the starter rung of it, the whole thing. And then after that, there's bands that will feature in that a few times. And once they get closer to an album, then they might get their own feature. I might interview them in the podcast. But certainly, maybe if they're really compelling, I'll write about them in a full length feature as well. So it's just kind of like that kind of core recommendation is about the enthusiasm I have for somebody and how they can bring it through their career as well. So it kind of the starts with the Irish Tracks of the Week and then goes on from there
Okay.
to usually greater visibility.
Cool. Okay, that's fantastic. That's a good starting point. So we'll be back to you in a few minutes now. Kieran, do you want to tell us about yourself and how you ended up in Nova?
I'm a musician and songwriter, and I never thought that I would do radio. It wasn't a thing that was on my radar at all. And I just, someone was sick in TXFM like in 2017, and they asked me to cover a Sunday night shift, and I covered the shift, and I thought it was good, uh, even though it was probably terrible. And then after that, then I kind of got into it a bit. I didn't have much choice. I didn't have a lot of kind of ability to plan my own stuff then. I did that for a year, and I thought it was kind of fun, but I actually thought it was done then. And then in Nova, Gavin Glass, I came back from tour, and we were just, there was I just had a baby, and well, my wife had a baby, and it was kind of a lot of hanging around. And then Gavin Glass was sick or ill or away or something, so they asked me to cover. And then I was like, maybe this is something I can do. And I kind of started to lean into it then in about 2018, I think. And I was still touring and musician and playing gigs and releasing albums and stuff. And it was kind of a fun second thing. But then during COVID, do you remember that you got that, what was it called? The thing where you could be like a person of, work importance or whatever. You got a letter. So I could leave my house and I could drive into Dublin and I could go into the radio station. So it was like this amazing magical world for a while. And I got really into uh, doing the radio then. I couldn't do any gigs. I couldn't, tour. I couldn't go in and write music. And I got really into it then. And then I started to kind of like actually think about like what would it mean to be, a radio DJ, and what kind of radio DJ would I want to be as a musician. And I kind of sat down and like actually like designed a show, and kind of had not a philosophy, but I kind of had an idea of the best way of, supporting the Irish music scene and supporting new music. So that's how it kind of came together. And then Gavin left, and they gave me the All Irish show, which is what I wanted. And I started to get good numbers. Started to get nominated for awards and things like that, and win awards, and that was great. But I think that was a kind of recognition of the work that I was putting into it. And then it's just become part of my life now, and it's a kind of a mad place to have ended up. But I really, really kind of like it, and I feel I've got a bit of a responsibility. So I put a lot of work into it across the week, but I really love it in sort of a nerdy way as well as everything else. I'm good at engineering and stuff. Just as Niall said, I had a little bit of background in associated stuff, so I was able to kind of make the show sound that way I wanted it to. And I'll go into it if you want, but I kind of have a theory of how to share new music as well. And so I kind of build my show. I won't go too long here, but my thing is that I try and give as many songs as I can kind of fit into a show, but I try and put them in with the big songs, you know.
Yeah.
Personally, for me, like I listen to new music playlists, but I I kind of get a bit overwhelmed by 20 new songs in a row. If it was a radio broadcast, you know. So what I do is I kind of I have this theory of like kind of sharing the songs out in between the kind of popular, you know, the familiar songs. And the idea is that, you know, it's this kind of thing where the artist is being elevated to the same level as whatever, you know, your U2s and your Tin Lizzies and whatever else. And that's the kind of way that I run it. And yeah, no, that's how I got there, and
Mm.
it's got busier and busier, and I've kind of enjoy it, you know.
Yeah. Given that you're a musician, Kieran, like when bands approach you, first of all, are you sort of like, are you, do you find yourself kind of like being a lot more welcoming to them because you're a musician, a lot more accommodating to them, a lot more sort of like, I suppose, kind of like often with kind of professional critics, there's so much stuff coming at them and they haven't got that musician background that do you kind of feel that yourself, you have a bit more empathy for them?
Yeah, I do, and it actually it's kind of it's kind of not worked in the past. I used to do music reviews. I got asked to do music reviews for a while, and I just ended up giving everything 3 stars because I was like, oh, this fella's put a lot of work into this. I didn't really want to give it, and and I was, just it just wasn't working, and because nothing was, Walkman's, You and Me album, and nothing was also absolutely terrible, and these people put a lot of time into it, so everything was just given 3 stars, and I was like, this isn't working. So, but when it comes to the music, I have this kind of rule for myself. So it was fine when I started out because there wasn't that many emails that came in a week, but um, I said I was going to listen to everything, give everything a chance, and then what I do is I play as many as I sort of could in the Irish hour. That was fine in 2019, 2020 when I was getting 50 emails a week. Now
Yeah.
I'm kind of getting 200 emails a week, and it's an absolute pain in the arse, and I've painted myself into a corner, but I'm still going to do it. But as Niall will tell you, there's a lot of emails that come in, but I don't give a crap whether you're signed, whether you're not signed, whether you're got a PR person, whether you don't. I don't care about that person. Some people do, but the way that I do it is I try and give everything. Like when the email comes in, I'll listen to the song first. If the song is good, I'll look at the bio and I want to know more, and then I'll look at the photo, and then I'll figure out who they are. I don't care like if it's your 50th song and you're a 56-year-old father of four from Port I don't care if you're 19 and your first single. If it's good enough, it goes into the maybe pile, and then I shuffle down the maybe pile into a 5 or 6, as was said. And that's just it. That's the rule. And if something isn't good enough, it doesn't go in. And I
Mm.
don't get influenced by PR, and I don't get influenced by friends. And sometimes friends get very pissed off at me because I haven't played their song. There's somebody at the moment who I know, and they are just like, It's just checking what's going on. Have you not? Did the email not? Is it in your spam? Why haven't you played the song?" And I'm like, "It's not as good as other songs that came in this week." And that's just the rule. And I think that's where the empathy comes in, is that I just try and be as fair as possible. It has to be something that's interesting and creative, and I just get a feel off. And sometimes
Yeah.
it surprises me what that is.
Okay, that's really good. Like I like the way the two of you are kind of coming at it from a position of kind of influence or position of enthusiasm. Sorry, in terms of kind of like what you're picking up on. And so, like but I mean, no, like Kieran just said there, he's getting about 200 emails a week. What's your email load like? And like how and is email the way people get hold of you most, or are you finding yourself that you find that there's certain filters you've kept on, there's certain kind of ways of getting stuff to you that you kind of trust?
Yeah, first of all, I just want to say I remember Questlove talking about DJ and saying, yeah, you got to play a recognizable song every 3 songs if you're DJing to keep them interested. So they're kind of echoing that idea. Um, yeah, I mean the emails are pretty overwhelming these days. Anyone that contacts me on social media, I just say you send me an email, because that way I can manage it and I can
Yeah.
look. You know what it's like if you're using Instagram regularly and necessary evil and all that, and you're putting up stuff to you're tagging bands and you're tagging acts and people are talking to you. If you send me a message, cold call on Instagram, it's going to be gone a week later, and I'm going to forget about it. And that's just from
Yeah.
experience. That's what it is. So email is the best way. Yeah, it
Isn't
is very
isn't
overwhelming at the
isn't it
moment, I
funny that
think.
isn't it funny the way email has kind of remained the king? Like it's the oldest of all kind of forms of electronic communication, and it's still the king. I find myself email is the only way to go. Forget about WhatsApp messages, DMs, whatever. Email is king.
Oh
Well,
no,
that's also the
that's an
same.
affront. If somebody send me a WhatsApp message, I'll be like, please, This is
You know,
personal now.
I deal with academics these days. You have no idea. Some of them use carrier pigeons.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think it is very overwhelming at the moment, and I think it's just the sheer number of people making music has increased over the years, and it's hard to keep on top of it. Like it really is, and it has to be. It gets to the point where you're like, even of those, say, 28 songs I picked last week and I whittled down this morning, a lot of them would have been good enough 10 years ago for a feature, but now there's a kind of a like, okay, there's lots of lovely stuff here, but you just have to pick the best of the best now. And there's always stuff you don't like and all that kind of stuff. And I think, like here, and I think, I get stuff from PR as well. And a couple of times I've got a few emails from people who's like, oh, you only feature stuff with that are sent you by PR. I was like, no, I do have pre-existing relationships with PR people, but it's not a prerequisite for a feature. It's absolutely not. And especially not if you're doing the Irish stuff. My job is the way I see it is to keep on top of that. It is very overwhelming. There's loads of bands I'm really interested in all the time where I'm like trying to keep an eye on them. That is the hard thing now is to keep on
Yeah,
top of everything. And one of the ways that I managed to like I've kind of pivoted in the last 6 months, probably because of all the conversations about Spotify as well and like how Spotify is doing things morally that I don't agree with. It's also the way that I don't know if anyone's read Liz Pelly's book, The Mood Machine, very much about the idea that Spotify is dictating the terms for all the new artists now these days. So you kind of need to, yeah, you kind of need to have a situation where you are able to be in control. It's not Spotify. Spotify isn't the be all and end all, and that's the thing. I think we have to kind of go. Okay, well, everyone. You sometimes I get emails from people who just want me to add them to a Spotify playlist. I'm like, really? That's it? That's all you want? Like that's not important. That's not longevity. That's not going to bring anything. So for me, I've definitely refocused more on albums because a longer body of work. Because I've been doing this for 20 years, every now and again, I'd say once a year, twice a year, I get burnt out from all the music stuff that I'm trying to keep on top of. So a refocus on writing about albums first has been a really nice way for me to really enjoy the process again. And I still write about single tracks, but certainly if it's more about oh somebody has a song here or there, it might feature in Irish tracks, might feature in the five best tracks of the week, whatever it is that I do, or individually depending on the band. But yeah, I think just that focus is everyone's overwhelmed, and like then there's also not that's not getting into the AI slop music that is also appearing on some of those Spotify playlists as well. It's a weird time to be making music. It's a weird time. There was a guy that emailed me last week saying that it's not you, Hubert, is it? Maybe it is. Saying that he was on somebody's putting up music under his name, and this is happening all the time now, and it's just like hundreds of releases and all that kind of stuff. So for me, I definitely deplatformed or de-emphasize Spotify as the primary route. I don't try not to use it anymore. But what I will say is that people are still talking about Spotify like it's the only game in town, and it's
yeah,
absolutely not. Like
yeah.
new bands are still only releasing sometimes Spotify first, everything else is an afterthought, and that is a real problem, I think.
Okay. Same question over to you then, kind of Kieran. In terms of kind of like finding out about the music, you've got your kind of emails coming in. Are you looking elsewhere as well? Have you got kind of like filters you're using? Is it gigs? Is it band? Is it bands people And like me, does PR play a part in in how bands get to you?
PR doesn't play a part. So basically, I'll get, just so you know what my process is. So I'll get somewhere around 200. Last week was a big week for some reason. I don't know why. It was, closer to 225. January was quiet, so I focus on new bands and stuff like that. Then summer is quiet. I can kind of focus on new bands there as well. But generally, it's about 200 song submissions a week. I'll basically just go through everything song first. And if something is wildly out of the genre, which still happens, I would say to artists, don't send stuff that's wildly out of the genre. I can't play dance. I can't play, like, very kind of heavy hip hop. Like, I can. I have a kind of a world that's a sort of an alternative world, and that can be, you know, and all the threads and strands out of that. So that's
Yeah.
important to know where you're for an artist, know who your audience is, who you're sending stuff into. I listen through stuff. I get about 10 to 15 proper country and Irish songs a week, and I can kind of skip past those generally. But I just basically listen to everything in a kind of a first listen. And then things that are in my wheelhouse and things that make sense and things that I like will go into a maybe list. That maybe list will generally be quite big. And then over the course of the week, then I just cut through that maybe list and get it down. So at the end of the week, I have 10, 15 songs that I think are great and I want to play. And
So
so then,
those 10, 15 songs, Kieran, are songs you listen to maybe two or three times during that week.
yeah, so basically, when as it goes, as the process goes on, you listen to them more. Do you know?
Yeah.
So like, there's a first listen, which is like, this is in my world. Yeah, great. That goes in the maybe list, or this is recorded well. Or sometimes you get songs, unfortunately, that are recorded on someone's phone or something, and you're like, "Oof, I don't know about this. I don't know if I can play it. Sometimes you have songs that are the wrong genre, but generally, things that are in the right world for you, and there's a broad enough world I can push. Um, then I'll put that in a maybe list, and then I'll go through that list. And basically, anyway, at the end of the week, then I'll come to kind of Saturday, and I've got 10, 15, whatever songs that I'm going to choose. Now, I don't care how long your song is. If it's the best song got that week, I'll play it. Now, I'll make decisions on the other songs based on that. So there was a Madra Salik song that came in, around the turn of the year, and it was 7.5 minutes long. I thought it was one of my favorite songs that week. I played it. It meant that I only got, three songs or two other songs in that week because I have 15 kind of minutes or something like that. But I don't really mind. I don't really have radio rules in the way some radio stations do. I don't. Some people do. I don't care if you've got a long intro. I don't care if you're very heavy. I don't care if you're, whatever. I don't mind as long as the song is great after that. And sometimes I'll do kind of check-ins on other DJs. Like, so I might see what John Barker's put on his playlist. I might see what Niall or Nine is doing. I might see what Claire Beck is doing. I might check and see some of the online kind of influencers. And sometimes they have acts that I've sort of haven't sent stuff in or just off my radar, and I'll just check in with people. I used to listen to English, like new music stuff, but it was just too much. So I just focused on the new music I play is Irish. Occasionally, like, there's a new Geese track or there's a new whatever, a song that I want to play. There's a new Angine de Poitrine song I want to play. But generally, it's new Irish music is where I spend my time. So as a result, I'm not going searching for stuff because I've got so much on my plate already. But one thing I just thought would be kind of interesting is if people are doing stuff on social media and it appears and they're good at it and it's interesting, and it appears on my feed somewhere, it isn't that they're going to get into my playlist that week, but they just kind of jump into my head and I see this person's doing something different. I remember in 2020 when CMAC came out first. I heard the song. Song was quite good. So that was in the maybe list, and maybe it didn't get on in the first week. And then the following week, she did a thing on online where she ate an entire bucket of KFC, just to promote her new single. And I remember just thinking that was just absolutely ridiculous. But there was something funny and stupid and sort of shameless or something about it that I just thought was really funny. And then I remember I came back and the song came in again, and I was like, oh, that was that's the one who did that thing. So it's not like I'm out looking, but things will like if I see someone at a gig or someone does something great in social media, then I'm like, oh, that band, oh yeah, okay, they're doing something. And it just means that sometimes there's a little um understanding of where they're coming from, which will help them get into the show. So I don't think it hurts, but it isn't going to make the decision for me, if that makes sense.
That total sense. Excellent. All right. So another question for two of you. Starting with you now. Is there a best time for an act to approach you? Like, are you a one hit and done kind of man, or does it, or like, I mean, is it the case of like when someone approached you, like if you're starting playing them, or if you're starting kind of featuring them, there's a ladder in which you kind of build them up, or like is it the case that sometimes a band will approach you and the song is wrong, the moment's wrong, but they come back to you 6 months later and it's the right moment?
Yeah, I mean, I don't hear everything straight away and automatically decide, but I'm always keeping an eye on things. There's definitely acts that I've been listening to for a few years, and I feel like they might get to somewhere that I'm interested in them, and maybe they might go a different way. Maybe they might go in a more like mainstream pop way. Maybe they might go somewhere else. it just depends. But yeah, I kind of that's part of the job, and it's hard to like keep a tabs on now. Like I said, there's so much music. The emails are really helpful, for sure, because it means I can keep an eye on what they've sent me before, as well as a brand new song. So I'll always listen. So there's definitely bands at the moment who are sending me stuff, and I maybe only featured um their first feature with me would be like their fourth or fifth single, for example. So I think the thing is like you gotta trust me for what I do, because like there's no point in emailing me 17 times and going, did you listen to that? Yeah, it's like trust that I've listened to it, because that's just what I've been doing for 20 years, and then I will get to that email, even if it might take me 2 or 3 weeks. Sometimes I think generally though people are getting really good at that kind of stuff. People are sending stuff well in advance, and it's because of stuff like these panels is the reason that they're doing it. Like it used to be quite bad in terms of people. I mean, you still get people who are like, "Oh, I finished this song today." Like you'd hear, it was like, "Okay, well maybe today is a bit too soon for that." But I think I do as well like to see. I understand what Kieran's saying about it's about the song first, but the other thing is the consideration is because of the volume is what else is the band doing? Are they doing
Sure. Yeah.
gigs? It's a marker for how serious they're taking it. And like I said before on panels like this, I don't want the website to be a litany of bands that have came and released one song and then disappeared. Even if that song is great, I do want to contribute to their career if it's something they really want to do longer term. And I think if they show me they're serious about what they're doing and there's a plan in place, like it's as often is the case with these things, everybody, if you want to make a living out of this or you want to make a go of this, if you don't want to make a living, it's really hard to make a living out of music. Obviously, we know that. But if you want to be serious about it, you have to be serious about the fun part. And that is really key. You have to know what's going to happen in the next 6 months if you got gigs. Because the problem is, like for me now in the last, like I've had a kid here the last 2.5 years ago, right? So I'm not getting out to gigs every week all the time. So my problem I have is that I find it hard to remember which band it is that I really liked out of the glut of bands that are coming towards me. I'm like, okay, I haven't seen that band yet. I know I'm interested in them, but I haven't seen them to say, yeah, okay, they're great. I really like them. Because seeing a band live is still the marker for me, other than a well produced song that they sent me on SoundCloud or Bandcamp or Spotify or Cobuzz, which is one I use. Um, the key thing for me is I can get to see them live and they're as good. Motorolic, a great example, because I was like, Motorolic sound really interesting. The first single is really good. Oh, they didn't even have a first single out by that point when they played Ireland Music Week last year. And when I saw them there, I was like, all right, these lads are the real deal. Like they're really good. They're really really good. So then you're like, okay, I'm on board. It's not just like, well, that song is nice, but like, no, there's something else going on here. They're really good at this. So you're
Yeah.
kind of looking for that eureka moment a lot. He's like, for me, it's like the recorded stuff now is the first rung, as well as for me to go, okay, I need to see that band live to see what they're like and see where they're at in
Mm.
their career. Because you can tell from doing this so many years, like you're like, so anybody can release a really good single these days, a real polished single. But if you can't do it live, you do kind of feel like, well, where is this going to go for you in the next year? If you haven't got that nailed yet, you might need more time. Therefore, you're not fully all in on them yet. So it's just that kind of thing. I think you want to support people who are doing good stuff, who are doing things live as well, and it's really important to me to have that consideration. And it just, like I said, just helps because there's so much volume. It helps to differentiate.
Yeah, I think you said a very important thing is there as well that that I've kind of forgotten to emphasize in the past is that sometimes journalists want to be part of that story. They want to be kind of like me there when an act is coming through. They want to be able to kind of say, I covered that act early, I found that act's career. And I think that's something as well that's kind of that's the great unsaid, because like we always say to people about having the story right and maybe having it trying to think about a team, but also you need to kind of understand as well that like we as media people have egos and we like being early on something which is going to take off. Like Kieran mentioned there about kind of like CMAT. Both of you are talking about Module Salah. You want to be kind of like part of the narrative early doors.
Yeah, and I think the conversations we have about music are come from that enthusiasm that we have with people. So when we're out and about and we're talking about it and people are asking, you're like, "Well, have you seen Solid? Like they're they're up there. They're really, 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 really good. And it's the kind of thing that like even a YouTube video doesn't do them justice still
Mhm.
as yet. I mean, I've seen some of their performances on TV. Seeing them live though really, really is convinced me. So I still try and do that as much as possible. If I'm really interested in a band, like there's a couple of bands I'm interested in the moment, and what I'm going to see in the next few weeks. I'm like, okay, grand. I finally get to see that band, see where they are at, because the
Yeah.
recorded stuff is really good.
Excellent. Same question, you and Kieran. Like, in terms of kind of like the best time for a band to approach someone like you in their career. Like, is it at the start? Is it when the song's going? I mean, you mentioned earlier on about like that. Like, I'm not. You won't be able to play something that's being recorded on a phone on the radio show. So obviously, the band need to be at a certain stage of competence and a certain level of recording quality before they get a play on a radio station like Nova.
They do and they don't. Yeah. I get like I don't mind if someone sends me the first song they recorded on their phone. I don't generally like I'll give it a listen, but I'm not sitting there cataloging what they've done before. I'll listen to the song and go, that's not quite ready. And I probably won't read their entire bio and probably won't pay like it doesn't so they haven't chipped off anything off their chances or anything.
Mm.
But there are people who have sent in 10 songs over 5 years and I haven't played any of them. And I'm as excited as they are if the 11th comes in and it's a belter because I'm like, yeah, good lads, like, I have no problem with that. Like, you don't lose a chance. I think you don't lose your chance. I don't like if you've got a great song, I play it, and that's just where it comes from me. Like, and the other thing is as Noah says, we do feature interviews for albums. And I think we don't do interviews. Well, I don't do interviews before an album because a lot of times, if the band are on their first single or they're, on their second single or whatever, a feature interview, it just ends up, they don't often have a lot to say at that point, and it's kind of difficult because, it's not going to work in an interview setting. But if they've sent in a couple of songs and I've played them, and we also do a thing where we go out and we review gigs on the show as well. So every week there's a gig review, and if they're one of the bands at the show, often we do showcases and stuff like that, then they're getting in that way. They're getting their stuff played in the radio, people are chatting about them, and then suddenly it makes sense, as Nyler says, you're getting a kind of a feel for the band, and sometimes that's at an early level, and then you don't play the single they play till later, but it's like all these pieces come together for you. It's like it's almost as if you're sort of not doing it, they're doing it, and you're just ready to catch it. And I think that's really kind of important, that it doesn't matter when you approach media, right? I think that uh, when you're comfortable with a song, when you think it's good, like I would say, if you think the recording's good and you think the song's good, I would have no problem sending it out because you don't know who's going to catch what you're doing. Like you don't know who's going to love it, and I don't really care personally. Like I don't really have I wonder what they're going to do, and you know, in 2 years. I don't really, that's not a thing for me. Like, if the song is brilliant and I'm excited by it, I'll play it. And then hopefully they'll catch up and hopefully they'll get somewhere with it.
Mhm.
I had a song come in last year called Bohemia by an artist called Ellie O'Neill. I never heard of Ellie O'Neill, and really liked the song. And then 3 months later, another song came in called Anna with the Silver Arrow, and that was one of my favorite songs of last year. And I was like, geez, this is great. And then I'm seeing a pattern of great songs. And then when the album was announced, I was like, I want to talk to this person. So we had the interview yesterday, and when it came to the interview, like I kind of, a relationship has sort of formed there where I was really into it. Like, so I was really happy to give that extra push and give the feature, kind of way. So it's like it kind of came together itself, and then it naturally came that I wanted to promote the album as a result. So yeah, like I don't know, that was a recording. It sounded like one person. Her first song was just one person on an acoustic guitar, and for some people that's too early, and for some people that's all the song is going to be. So it's perfect.
This is great. It's an awful lot of good stuff coming out of here, coming out of but things both of you are saying. It's one question for you then, like, what's the single most annoying thing you found from acts looking for coverage now? What's the single most annoying thing an act can do when it comes to looking for coverage?
Um, I mean, probably just emailing me too much and asking me like where are you doing something? What's happening? What's happening? Like I mean, it does happen pretty regularly. That people are just like, and like funny, like I was kind of after a while, or if I get to talk to them in person, like, so I have an Irish music folder. Like, how many have I got in there now? Like, actually only 62 because I got it down from Friday. So I got 62 emails since Friday. So. Um, what happens is I go through that chronologically, and then once I hit, I go through it and I look at the dates, and I look and see what's been released, make a catalog of it. You have a spreadsheet for all this kind of stuff. So if people are constantly sending me updates or asking me again on the original email thread, it's always going to jump up to the top, and it might be another couple of weeks before I get to see it again. So I was like, actually, the more you do your own, you just like hurting yourself here because I can't get to the email by the time I get to the top of the list. It's back to the top again. There's another 50 emails on top of it. So, I mean, that's the kind of thing for me that just is like, oh, please stop emailing me repeatedly. Like, again, like, trust me in what I'm doing. And I guess the other thing is like, is like stuff that, I mean, most people know the buzz these days, or know what I feature and what kind of music I feature. Like, there's very few genres I won't cover, but I think people know at this point what kind of music I'm into.
Mm.
And for me, it's like, yeah, like if you're releasing a good song, like it's going to be featured somewhere. It just depends on the different degrees of that. So yeah, I
Yeah.
mean,
Do you,
like
do
I
you,
said, most people are not annoying anymore.
Yeah. Do you think now that, and like, before going to Kieran, do you think now as well, there's sometimes that bands have an unrealistic expectation that things should be happening overnight, things should be happening so fast, and that leads itself into kind of like the
Yeah,
constant emailing of you, and also kind of like, I mean, the social media has a big part to play in this. That very much, it's very much about now, 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 now. And if you don't respond to the email within an hour, they're on your back. There's an expectation that you need to come back to them in the hour.
yeah. I think like these things take time. There's no such thing as an overnight success. Overnight success takes a year or 2 years to happen in the first place. So all those things are all adding up. I think like we are all deluged with like so much music now that it used to be a real first culture, and it's not really there anymore, which is nice. So it means like there's no that impetus that people had is like, oh well, that Star track was released 2 weeks ago, so it's old. That is gone, and that's really good, because that means like, because if it's a good song, it's a good song. It doesn't matter when it's released. It just means that in terms of how it works for me, it's like just I'm just overwhelmed with music all the time. So it's remembering to pick that song out from a couple of weeks ago, remembering, and I forget all the time, even though I try not to. And I was like, oh, I forgot to feature that song that came out 3 weeks ago because I didn't have room in it for last week. And then sometimes I'm like, if the song is really good, I'll do a post about that song on its own and talk about the band, and kind of an intro piece as well to the band. So that's the excitement part of it. But no, I think yeah, most people are pretty good still.
Cool. Okay. Kieran, to you then, like, I mean, what's the single most annoying thing a band can do trying to get your attention or you to play them under them on your show? Aside from waving a wad of fires around like Nara 9.
Yeah, yeah. Well, neither hasn't offered me fivers yet, but I will. I'll get to them. I think it's the same stuff that Niall said. Like, I think that look, I am that soldier. I've sent in songs to people and been like, why are they not featuring this incredible song that I've written? This incredible song. I don't understand. I put my entire heart and soul into this, and they aren't even replying to my email. Like, what's going on? And people get very strange about that because every artist generally over estimates the quality of their own work. So they've got like their 3.5 star song. Now, I don't judge songs like that, but just saying, if you say that a song is 3.5 stars, they see it as 4.5 stars. And
Yeah.
then they listen to a song on the radio that they think is 3.5 stars, and they go, well, mine's way better than that. So you do get this all the time that people are like, you're playing Jimmy O'Toole and the whatevers, and you're not playing me. I don't understand. And you're like, well, sorry, the thing is, I have I work really hard to try and have my own integrity and my own authenticity with the way that I work. Like, I try not to have, because if you start doing favors for people, like, I just think that's a disaster. And I just try and just choose the best songs, and then I can say I sat back, I listened to everything, and I tried to listen. I chose the best songs that I thought, the songs that grabbed me, songs that I was interested in, and if as long as I can stand behind that, then it's fine. Like, some people get very antsy, some people send cranky emails, and that doesn't help because then I know who you are. Whereas if you sent in a song and it didn't get in the show, well, then that's a shame, and you can send your next one in, and it's fine. If you
Yeah.
send in your song and you call me a bollocks, well, then I know who you are now. So I'm like, well, I don't know if Tommy O'Toole is going to be played next week, but I think the one thing is that you have to, with media, they're not going to give you feedback a lot of time. they're not going to give you feedback. They're not sitting down to write you an email about why your song didn't get on the website or on the playlist or on the radio. They're not doing that. They don't have time to do that. So that's for your friends and your trusted, you know, partners or whatever. They're the people that are giving you that feedback if you're looking for it. But media, radio, they're going, does this work for me now? You know, and am I going to play it and whatever. It's just a binary. And then if they do write about it, then they'll say where they like it or whatever. Or they
Yeah.
do play it, they'll talk about it. But you're not going to get feedback from people, and asking people and expecting feedback from stuff. That's just, you can't do that. And people get annoyed about that, but
Yeah.
you can't do that. You know.
Right. Last question for me, and this has been great because, like, we would like we're running out of time rapidly, but I want to get some questions in from the audience. But last question for me, and we touched on this earlier on, and that was both of you kind of mentioned about kind of like PRs, and sometimes acts feel that a shortcut to getting on Nova, a shortcut to featuring on 909 is to hire a PR and pay them a retainer of however much grand a month that the current going rate is for PR. Talk a little bit, Niall and Kieran, about like the role PR plays with you. Is it they take the place on the queue, or have you got special relationships with some PRs in that in the past they're the ones who've given you Act A, Act B, Act C, and they have a good track record in that regard? Or is the case sometimes with PR, that they're annoying you because they've told an act they get you on Nova, or get you on 99, and there's not a chance in a snowball's chance in hell that's going to happen.
Well, I think any of the good PR people won't promise you anything because if they're promising you they're going to get you a feature on Nova or 909, they can't. That's not their decision, so they can't make that claim. And that's the problem, I think, and especially with radio plugin is if you go over to the UK and try and get your single plugged and played on BBC Six Music, you'll find very quickly how difficult it is to feature on those kind of platforms. Um, so yeah, I guess PR people are like I said, we've pre-existing relationships, but all of those people know that that's not a given for anything because all I have in terms of what I do is the respect that people have for me. That's my main commodity in terms of why people keep coming back. So if I start trading Korean favors here and there and featuring stuff as a okay, I'll do you a favor, people will notice because they'll notice I'm not as enthusiastic. They'll notice it's not the kind of thing I normally do. Like it's happened all the time. It's happening right now. It might be an album that's coming out or being released that you're like, I'll do it. I'll include it in an album roundup in a small way, but I won't be enthusiastic about it in a way that's like, okay, this is my full recommendation. It just can't do that. It has to be anything the features has to be on my terms, and I think that's the difference. I guess, like my thing is, it's my personal taste. That's my website. It's my personal taste. That's how I operate. Um, Other publications, uh, maybe one that has the initials HP, might put your new song in the big long list on a Friday just because you've released it. And that's fine if you get a feature out of it, but does it mean anything when it's with 35 other songs? I would argue it doesn't. The point about people like myself and Kieran, what we're doing, we're curating, we're picking the best of the best. We're picking out stuff we think is worthwhile and not just dumping words about songs just for clicks. You know what I mean? So that's the main thing. I think no one has time for that. So there are certainly some publications that will just take whatever and do whatever for you because they like to be in the conversation. They like to be part of you know, uh, the media and all that kind of stuff. But no, you have to have your own principles, and that's the main thing. I think any PR person who deals with me knows immediately that I'll feature if I think there's something there that is interesting. I feature it if I think it's like maybe it's a new festival or maybe it's a new band. Maybe there's some kind of weekender or something like that in terms of events. But then if it's a band, I have to like it. I have to like the music. That's number one. And every PR person I talk to knows that, and that's the relationship you have. You hear like they know that, and I'm like, God, they probably are annoyed sending me emails because I might feature one or two tracks a year sometimes, but like that's just the way it is. Like, I mean, I have to represent myself. Otherwise, what's the point?
Okay. Same question to you then, Kieran. Like from the PR agent's point of view, like do they get a kind of are they put up the ladder, or does it are you still coming back to the fact that the song is either up or down?
So it kind of depends. See, I have a different. Well, I have a kind of a strong opinion on PR. Like, so the thing about it is for my show and for a lot of shows like mine, I don't need, doesn't matter about PR to get the song played. I'll go and find the things I like. Sometimes I find out that they have PR. Sometimes I find out afterwards when I like the song that they're signed to a label, and sometimes they aren't, and I'm just emailing them personally or whatever. Like the thing is that from a musician side, so I've got a new, myself and my wife are in a band called Driven Snow. We've got a new album coming out in September. We just hired PR, and our knowing what we wanted was really clear. I know what I want, and that's the level of all the music stations and all the websites and stuff. I can do a lot of that myself, and you'll get somewhere with it if the person likes it. But there's a step above that that I'm hoping to get to, which is the sort of try and get on the bigger shows, try and get whatever. And PR is like, there is there's levels of PR, and you pay for to try and you're hoping the PR is going to get you up a level. It's like you're paying for PR to bring you up a couple of steps on the ladder that maybe, like even busier shows. I know some of the DJs, for example, on some of the national stations, they simply can't go through everything. So they actually, they will just go through the stuff that's recommended by PR, and they'll choose their 20 tracks from the 50 that come from PR or whatever. And that's where we came from with the theory of using PR that way. I think for Niall, for myself, for lots of people who are kind of passionate about what they do, it's not that important. But there are people who aren't, maybe the bigger stations, maybe the TV shows, maybe your Tommy Tiernans and your Late Lates and things like that, and you're trying to knock on the door with your music with that. That's where PR is important. But that's where it comes into to where you are in your career, because that's where it's going to matter where your story is. That's where it's going to matter that you have a big tour and you've got an album and these people have said good things about it, because that'll make a difference then with how you knock on the door. They'll basically, they'll bring you to the door, and you have to be able to sell whatever you're doing
Yeah.
yourself, but PR won't make a difference in what I do and with what people like Niall do, what people like at that sort of level where it's kind of passionate people doing, choosing the music and stuff. But as I say, there's a sort of a higher um, bar for some things. There's people who care as well, but that's what you pay PR for. So I would be a little careful with paying like 2.5 grand, 3 grand, 4 grand for year-long PR campaigns. Like it's huge money that you could probably do a lot of it yourself if you're, And if anyone ever needs any help with how to submit to a radio station, briefly, a downloadable link, like a streaming link with a download. Don't send the MP3. A decent bio, decent photo, and make it easy for the person to find the link and the details. Don't make it like really hard to do it or whatever. But like that's all you need for me. And I don't know about anyone else, but I think it's the same with that. But PR is a kind of a magical world, filled with, nebulous, clouds and things, and nobody ever tells you what's going on. And sometimes you get things and you don't know why you get them. And I just find it very difficult.
Okay, that's great. Like we could easily keep going for another hour, but I just want to I know we've a second panel beginning at 6 o'clock, and there's a couple of questions here. And one is, would an EP attract more attention than a single?
I think that depends on what kind of pre-existing knowledge you have of an act. I mean, if I'm already interested in the band, then yes. But if I'm not, that's just three more songs I'm probably not going to get a chance to listen to. Um, you'll have to like one song off the EP before you'll probably listen to the full EP. That's the real thing. I mean, EP is just a handy collection, like they call it a waterfall of singles now, pretty much. Like anything can be packaged up as an EP, so just a way of doing it on streaming services. So I think it still has. I mean, we talked about Motorolica earlier on. They released an EP for a band like that, who are on a really, buzzy course. It's a really good thing for them to do. I do like EPs, but they're very much like early days, low stakes. It's like the way that people release mixtapes before they release debut albums now, because they don't want to. It's like it's no one's going to give out to you or like criticize you heavily or even review you heavily for releasing a mixtape. So you can kind of get a full bit of the experience without having the full like, oh my god, what are people going to think of my debut album? Because it's not the same thing as what are people going to think about my mixtape? It's much more casual, so it helps that way. And
I
EPs
would
are
say
kind of
if
the
you're
same.
sending any, I would say if you're sending any collection of songs, more than one song, make sure you detail a featured track. because otherwise, if I get an album of 12 songs in and someone goes, "Yeah, I'd love you to play a song off this," I can't listen to 12 songs off the album. So I will either listen to, if it's on Spotify or something, I'll look at the most played track, or I'll play the first track. And maybe they're not the songs that you want me to hear, and maybe they're not the best representation. So tell me the featured track, please, and that'll, I listen to that. Like I got a song in during the week from a guy, and this featured track was not great. I just didn't get in my thing, and then I saw that another track had way more plays. I listened to that; it was a belter. I played that one. Now, featured track is the thing to send in. If you don't tell me what it is, I might not be able to. I'm not going to choose what to listen to, and you might not like the one, or it might not be a good representation of what you want me to hear. Of a collection of songs.
Cool. Great. Any tips from either of you for getting a festival featured on your site or radio show? No?
Or is that about getting a festival feature? Well, for me, it's like, I mean, obviously it has to align somewhat in terms of the kind of music that I feature. That's number one. There's no point in me writing about a tribute band festival. The audience isn't going to be interested in it, and I'm not going to be interested either. So for me, it would have to have some strong new music element, emerging talent element. Like that one last week that was announced, Momentum in Galway. It's got Clifford Smotrasolic, the scratch on it. I was like, okay, that's a day that they're doing that's very much my wheelhouse. Happy to
Yeah.
feature that. There's the one in Athlone, Creeler or something it's called. Really good lineup
Yeah.
of emerging Irish music, and really well picked. And for me, that's like, okay, yeah, absolutely. Like I didn't. No one's asking me to feature them, or no one's paying me to feature them. I just was like, that's really good. That's a great lineup. Someone's doing the work, and they need to see people need to see that this is happening. So, stuff like that is really good. I think, look, there's so many festivals out there, and a lot of them have the same. And I understand the commercial interest of festivals and trying to get a mass number of people means you get the same kind of acts across different regions as you'll get. So just kind of identical festivals. So it needs to have something. I think festivals with a point of view is the thing for me. It's like, if you can show you're a festival with a point of view, and not just like, well, here's three bands that everyone likes, and we're going to put them on Saturday in the local ground, or whatever. So like, it's has to have a point of view. I think something to it that suggests that somebody's thought deeply about this. That isn't just like, oh, we're going to put on a gig in the stadium or whatever, or the GA pitch, So yeah, I know, Jim, you've covered a lot of those festivals over the years. They left people unpaid, and
Oh yeah,
all that kind of stuff.
the link with promoters. That I think most promoters are quite glad I'm no longer in that job. Certainly I keep bumping
Oh,
into
sure, I'm sure.
there's one promoter I've met around town quite recently a lot, and I can just tell by the look he gives me every time. He said, "I'm quite glad you're not covering my festival." And Declan Ford would be quite happy I'm not covering your festivals. Same question to you, then, Kieran. How do you get a festival covered on kind of like on your show on Nova?
No, Niall just nailed it there. Yeah, like, so I do a feature interview every week, and almost always it's a band releasing an album, but there'll be times when it's not, and then I look for something that would be interesting. And exactly as Niall said, if it's something that fits my show, then that will make sense to cover that, because it'll be like promoting new Irish music or whatever. Yeah, exactly as Niall said.
Cool. Okay, Grant. And then, like, this thing will be the last question. So I'm just waiting for the arts officers to arrive, and there's no sign. Oh, Maeve's there. No, I'll make this the last question. We'll make this snappy. What makes you feel a song or band is good or has something to it? Is the melody, the lyrics, or a combination of everything? Question from Claudia. Kieran, you take that one.
Yeah, I don't always know what it is. Sometimes songs come out of nowhere and I just love it. Like that Ellie O'Neill song, I ended up listening, walking around that, doing the dishes or whatever. I was just like, this is an amazing song, and I just fell in love with it. And then I tried to play it as much as possible. My show, there's something like 15,000 listeners in the first hour. There's like 11,000 in the second hour, and there's 9,000 or something. Like, that's what they tell me. So I kind of promote things up the hours, and I'll if I love a song after a couple of plays, I'll play it in the first hour. And it's funny because that's kind of prime time. It's before 7 o'clock and whatever. And I'll be really like, eulogizing about a song that I love in that hour. And that's like the place I go for whatever I really have really liked. But I don't always know. A song came in the middle of last year. I can't remember the fucking name of the fella now, and it's annoying me. But anyway, it came in, and I was like, it was an older man, and it sounded like it was recorded in his house, and it was a bit creaky, but it was just one of the finest songs I'd heard in ages. And I went and looked at the bio and I was like, God, this man must be in the 70s. And I was like a 25-year-old. And it was, his first recording. And I was like, Jesus, but like, it was an amazing song and I played it loads. And I haven't heard anything else from him since, but it was worth it for that song. And I don't know what it was that grabbed me. It didn't necessarily fit any of the rules that people have. But yeah, I don't know.
Can
I
you
think
break?
melody is important though.
Excellent, thank you, Kieran. Can you break it down as well, Niall, to what pulls you into the song in the first place?
I guess it's a good feeling, really, isn't it? It's like something that is attracting you to, something that makes you want to listen again, something that even if it catches you unawares, you're like, I'm not sure how I feel about this, and that's always a good sign if you don't immediately recoil, but there's something that's making you kind of recoil as well. Sometimes it's like if it's not pretty, it's not like I mean, there's room for that as well, but I think sometimes like um, you have to trust your gut. There's an album released recently from a guy called David DeBarra. Uh, Really cool. His second album, and he sounds like Ian Lynch from Lancome, playing with like I don't know a Lazarus Soul or something like that. It's really unique. The lyrics are very heart and sleeve. A lot of songs about mental health. The cover is absolutely disgusting. It's like a toenail hanging off someone's foot, and I was like, why would you put that as your cover? But I went back and I was like, this is incredible. This is really good. And then you look at the people involved and you're like, all right, all of these people are involved in it as well. Like, I can't remember who it was somebody from O Emperor, that band. Maybe Dan
Yeah,
Walsh was
yeah, yeah.
involved, something like that. Uh, but David DeBarra, but I was like, yeah, there's something to this. My gut is this is really good and I'm going to have to revisit it over and over again. And I have been. It only came out about a month and a half ago or so. Now, I never heard his first album at all. It just, something to it. But it's really interesting, and it's the gut feeling of like I haven't heard anyone else talk about this either, and I don't know. Like, is this good? It was like, am I losing my mind? It's like,
But
or is it
also,
just
yeah,
really like basic?
but
That's
also
the other
something
thing.
that
Sometimes when you
surprises
look
you.
around, you're like, yeah, yeah, and that was so surprising for me, and I was like, I got so excited about it because it was like it just felt like such a unique experience listening to that music, and I was like, this I've never heard anything like this before, even though it sounds a bit like a lot of different things, but yeah, really cool, really cool. David DeBarra, if anybody wants to check it out, yeah, can't remember
Excellent.
what the
So then
album's
that
called
last
now. Oh,
last question.
it's Rest in Peace, Brian Wilson, I think is the name of the album.
Oh, rest in peace, Brian Mills and David the Bar. Kieran, best address for people to get you on is Kieran at nova.ie.
Yeah.
Well, what's the best address for people to send music to you at?
It's in the chat there. Well, I mean, Irish at niler9.com if you're sending me a song. If you just want to say hello, it's Niall at niler9.com.
Fabulous. Listen, lads, that was fantastic. We could easily talk for another hour and still have another hour left to do after that. So big thanks from me and everyone at FMC to Niall and to Kieran for their time tonight. Really appreciate it, lads. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks,
Thank
everyone
you.
else. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.